She used to know exactly how to get to you. A single word, a single look, even a simple delay in her response could send your emotions spiraling. You were predictable, always reacting, always giving her the satisfaction of knowing she held the strings. But now something has shifted. You no longer respond the way you used to. Where there was once desperation, there is calm. Where there was once endless chasing, there is silence. And the silence is louder than anything you could have ever said because it carries a message she can't ignore. You're not the same man anymore. At first, she might brush it off. She'll think you're just angry, that you're playing a temporary game, and eventually you'll return to the version of yourself that craved her attention. But as time passes, she realizes this is not a phase. Your silence is not a tactic, it's a transformation. You don't chase anymore because you've learned your value. You don't argue because you've discovered peace is more powerful than proving a point. You don't beg because you finally understand that love isn't supposed to be begged for, it's supposed to be mutual. This new calm unsettles her. Why? Because her ego thrived on your reactions. Every time you broke down, every time you reached out, every time you made it clear that your world revolved around her, her pride grew. But now, with your silence, she feels something she didn't expect: emptiness. The attention she once took for granted is gone. The control she thought she had no longer exists. And in that quiet void, her mind begins to question, what changed? Why isn't he running after me anymore? Did I lose him for good? Your silence has become a mirror, forcing her to see the cracks in her own ego. It's not about revenge, and it's not about making her jealous. It's about choosing yourself. It's about walking away from a version of you that was too consumed by her and stepping into a version that no longer needs her approval. This silence is a declaration that you've grown beyond the games, beyond the emotional roller coasters, beyond the need to prove yourself. And here's the irony: silence, something so simple, ends up being the loudest shift of all. She can dismiss your words, she can twist your emotions, but she cannot control your lack of reaction. Every moment you remain calm while she expects a storm chips away at the power she thought she had over you. And with each day that passes, she realizes more and more that you're not the man who once lived to please her. Now she sees a man who values his peace, who no longer invests in things that drain him, who carries himself with quiet strength that unsettles her more than any outburst ever could. Because deep down, she knows she has lost the influence she once had, and nothing bruises an ego more than realizing it no longer has control. She remembers the version of you who was comfortable, predictable, and maybe even a little too easy to read. She knew your weaknesses, she knew what buttons to push, and she thought she had you figured out. But now, when she looks at you, she sees something different. The man in front of her is not the one she left behind. You've changed, and your glow up is undeniable. It's in the way you carry yourself, the way you look her in the eyes with steady confidence, the way your presence demands attention without you even trying. You've become a man who is moving forward, building, evolving, and it unsettles her more than she ever expected. At first, she may have assumed that your transformation was temporary. Maybe she thought you'd get in shape for a while, post some pictures to make her jealous, or pretend you were living your best life. But the truth is, your glow up isn't an act, it's a lifestyle. You're not doing it for her, you're doing it for yourself. And that's what makes it so powerful. When she realizes that your progress isn't about chasing her approval, but about leveling up for your own growth, it cuts through her ego. Because she can't claim ownership of it, she can't diminish it, and she can't control it. Your glow up shows in more than just your appearance. Sure, maybe you've been hitting the gym, taking care of your body, sharpening your style, but the deeper change is in your mindset. You've become focused, disciplined, and intentional. The man she once knew would spend hours worrying about her, waiting for her, begging for her. Now your energy is redirected into building your life, and it radiates from you. People around you notice it, and whether she admits it or not, she notices too. That's when the reality begins to sink in. She underestimated you. What stings her ego the most is not that you've improved, but that you've improved without her. She expected you to be broken, to lose yourself, to struggle with her absence. Instead, you've used the very pain she caused as fuel to grow stronger. You've turned heartbreak into motivation, and every new success, every new level you reach is a reminder that you didn't collapse, you rose. And that glow, that undeniable transformation is something she can't ignore no matter how hard she tries. It unsettles her because she realizes she doesn't know this version of you. She knew the man who once lived for her attention, but this man, he doesn't need it. He doesn't seek it. He doesn't crave it. This man has options, purpose, and vision. He stands out not because of her validation, but because of his own growth. And the moment she sees that, her ego takes the hardest hit because deep down she knows she may never find someone like you again, and the man she let go of has now become the man everyone else notices. Your glow up is not just about proving her wrong, it's about proving yourself right. It's about finally stepping into the potential you always had, the strength you always carried, the version of yourself you always knew you could be. And when she realizes that, she knows one thing for certain: you're not the same man anymore. And nothing she does will ever change that. She remembers the man who once lived for her approval, the one who checked his phone every few minutes just to see if she replied, the one who worried endlessly about losing her. That man gave her all the control because his emotions were tied to her every move. But now, when she looks at you, she doesn't see that same man anymore. You've detached, and that detachment has shifted the entire balance. You're no longer chained to her validation, no longer moved by her silence, and no longer reacting to her games. That calm disconnection unsettles her more than anything else because it tells her she no longer has the power she once enjoyed. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you never cared. It doesn't mean you've erased every memory or ignored every feeling. It simply means you've taken back control of your own emotions. You've built the strength to stop handing her the keys to your peace of mind. Where before she could play on your insecurities, now she's faced with a version of you who doesn't flinch. Your energy is no longer trapped and chasing her. You're invested in yourself. And that shift is what makes her realize that you're not the same man she once knew. This change confuses her at first. She expects the old you to show up, the one who begged, pleaded, and kept checking in. But instead, you're calm, composed, and unbothered. You're no longer running after her. And that absence of pursuit is louder than any words you could have spoken. It makes her wonder, does he still think of me? Does he even care anymore? Is he really over me? These questions eat at her pride because they're the exact opposite of what her ego expected to feel. Ego thrives on certainty, and now she has none. The truth is, detachment is not about punishing her. It's about protecting yourself. It's about building a shield around your emotions so you don't bleed energy where it isn't valued. It's about choosing peace over drama, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over desperation. And when you live this way, she feels it. She notices the difference in your tone, your behavior, your entire presence. You're no longer the man trying to hold on to her. You're the man who doesn't need her to feel whole. And that's what cuts the deepest. Because when you were emotional, when you were desperate, she felt powerful. But now your calm indifference makes her feel powerless. She can no longer predict you. She can no longer control you. And she can no longer feed her ego with your reactions. In the silence of your detachment, she realizes just how much of her pride was built on the attention you used to give. And without it, her ego begins to starve. Now she sees a man who chooses himself over her, who doesn't need her validation to move forward, who lives unshaken no matter what she does. That's when it becomes undeniable you're not the same man anymore, and she can never have that control over you again. She once believed that you were replaceable. In her mind, she thought she could walk away, find someone new, and never look back. She assumed that what you gave, what you offered, and who you were could easily be found again. But now, as she watches you grow and sees the man you've become, a realization creeps in slowly. She was wrong. You're not just another man in the crowd. You've become irreplaceable, and that truth unsettles her ego more than anything else. Being irreplaceable doesn't come from chasing her or trying to prove your worth to her. It comes from building yourself into someone who carries presence, someone who knows his value, someone who stands so firmly in his growth that nobody can take his place. You've leveled up in ways she never expected, mentally, physically, emotionally, and even spiritually. The man she once knew has evolved into someone stronger, sharper, and more disciplined. And now she sees that losing you wasn't just about losing a person, it was about losing an entire energy she may never encounter again. What makes you irreplaceable isn't perfection, it's authenticity. It's the fact that you didn't just move on, you moved forward. You didn't just recover, you rebuilt. You've shaped a life around purpose, confidence, and direction, and that kind of energy can't be duplicated. She may meet others, she may try to fill the space, but deep down, she'll notice the difference. She'll feel it when conversations lack the depth she once had with you. She'll sense it when the energy doesn't match yours, and every comparison she makes will remind her of what she lost. That realization doesn't just hurt her, it shatters her ego. The irony is that she once thought she had the power, that by walking away she could leave you broken. But instead, you've become the kind of man who can't be ignored. You're building, you're succeeding, you're glowing in a way that commands respect. You become a man who others look up to, who others admire, and she can't escape the fact that she once had a place in your life and let it go. That knowledge lingers in her mind, quietly gnawing at her pride. And the most powerful part is that your transformation isn't aimed at her. It's aimed at yourself. You didn't grow just to make her regret. You grew because you refused to stay broken. That's what truly makes you irreplaceable. Because while she thought you needed her to be whole, you proved that you needed only yourself. That independence, that strength, that unstoppable drive is something not many men achieve. And once you embody it, there's no going back. Now, every time she sees you, every time she hears about you, every time she realizes how far you've come, she feels it deep inside. She can't replace you. She can find company, but she can't find your presence. She can find attention, but she can't find your energy. She can find someone else, but she can't find you. And that's when the truth becomes undeniable. You're not the same man anymore, and she'll never have another version of you again. She once knew you as a man who had all the time in the world for her. You drop everything just to answer her call, cancel plans just to see her, and rearrange your priorities so she could feel like the center of your universe. The version of you gave her comfort, but it also gave her ego power. She believed you would always be available, always waiting, always ready to give her attention no matter what. But now things have shifted. You're busy, you're focused, you're chasing something greater than her validation, and that change shakes her more than you realize. When a man begins to fill his life with purpose, direction, and goals, his energy changes. Your time becomes more valuable, your attention more selective, and your presence harder to access. Suddenly, she's no longer the only thing that drives you because you found a bigger vision. Whether it's your career, your fitness, your passions, or your personal growth, you've committed yourself to something greater. And this new focus makes her realize that you're not the same man who once prioritized her above everything. You're now a man who prioritizes himself, and that alone cuts her ego down to size. She may try to test you, dropping subtle hints, reaching out to see if you'll respond the way you used to, but she quickly sees that your replies are different, your energy is distant, and your schedule is full. You're not ignoring her out of bitterness. You're simply too invested in your own path to be pulled back into the games. And that's when the realization sets in. She's no longer the center of your attention. That shift, that loss of control, bruises her pride in ways she didn't expect. The man she once knew would stay up late just to talk to her. Now, you're staying up late building your dreams. The man she once knew would rearrange his priorities for her. Now, your priorities are non-negotiable. The man she once knew couldn't imagine life without her. Now, you're living a life so full, so focused, so driven that her absence doesn't create emptiness. It creates space for your growth. And the more she sees this, the more she realizes how much she underestimated you. This focus of yours doesn't just change how she sees you, it changes how the world sees you. People respect men who have purpose, they admire men who are disciplined. And now you carry yourself with that quiet authority, that energy of someone who knows where he's headed. She notices it in the way others look at you, in the way your presence draws attention, in the way your success begins to speak louder than anything she could say. And deep down, her ego knows that she can no longer compete with your vision. The truth is, you didn't stop caring, you just stopped wasting energy on things that don't help you grow. You've realized that the greatest revenge isn't anger, it's progress. The greatest shift isn't bitterness, it's purpose. And once you step into that, nothing can stop you. That's when she finally accepts the truth. You're not the same man anymore. And your focus has made you untouchable. There was a time when she thought she could predict your every move. She believed she knew how you would respond, how you would react, and how far she could push before you came running back. That certainty gave her comfort and made her feel powerful. But now that certainty is gone. The man she once thought she had figured out has changed, and with that change comes something she never expected. Unpredictability. And unpredictability is the one thing her ego can't control. When you're no longer the man who reacts out of desperation, when you stop following the same old patterns, and when you refuse to play the games that once kept you stuck, everything shifts. She can no longer rely on her old strategies to pull you back in. She doesn't know if you'll answer. She doesn't know if you'll show up. She doesn't know what you'll say or how you'll carry yourself. That uncertainty gnaws at her because her pride used to feed on the assurance that she could always get to you. But now, every move you make keeps her guessing, and that unpredictability keeps her ego off balance. This new version of you isn't reckless, it's intentional. You've learned that the power lies in not being easily swayed. You don't over-explain, you don't chase, you don't reveal your every thought and emotion. Instead, you keep parts of yourself reserved, not as a game, but as a boundary. And boundaries are something she never expected from you. By holding them firm, you've broken the old cycle where she dictated the rhythm of the connection. Now you set the pace, and she has no choice but to follow or fall behind. Unpredictability also makes you intriguing in a way you weren't before. People are drawn to those they can't fully read, those who carry an air of mystery, those who aren't available to just anyone at any time. And now, that's who you become. You're not the man who lays all his cards on the table. You're the man who lets his actions speak louder than his words. The man who moves with quiet confidence. The man who isn't easily understood. That mystery creates a magnetism that not only unsettles her, but also makes her question what she lost. The irony is that this isn't about playing games, it's about growth. You're not being unpredictable for the sake of confusing her. You've simply outgrown the need to be predictable. Your focus, your silence, your discipline, your boundaries, all of these things make you harder to control and harder to define. And when she realizes she can no longer predict you, she realizes she can no longer own the power she once believed she had over you. And here's the thing, once a man reaches this level of self control and balance, there's no going back. You've stepped into a version of yourself that doesn't live for approval, that doesn't cling to the past, and that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. That unpredictability is not instability, it's strength. It shows that you've built a life where you can't be controlled, and that is the greatest shift of all. That's when it finally sinks in for her, you're not the same man anymore, and she will never have the same hold over you again.